when we think about thinking, we only think of thinking in our brains. We think of thoughts in our brains. And what we know that causes thoughts or creates thoughts or processes thoughts are neurons. And that's what is predominantly found in the brain, along with other processes and chemicals, are neurons. Now, if neurons are responsible for thinking, then why would there be neurons now found in the gut, in the heart, and in other places around our body where these organs are that are not responsible for thinking as we know as thought? And that's why a broader view of what thinking is needs to be encompassed. If we look at what the mind is, we say, make up your mind. And we think that making up your mind is an entirely thought-based, rational approach. But in fact, making up your mind requires you to understand what your mind is. Now, if you look at mind, according to yoga, if you focus your mind at your legs, then your mind is in your legs. And if you focus your mind in other part of your body, that's where your mind is. And so this mind idea and thoughts has to transcend beyond the conventional approach, is that the mind is the brain, and brain are thoughts, and thoughts are neurons, and thinking only happens in the brain. It's actually, if we look at it from an entirely holistic point of view, that perceptions and understandings happen at a very much deeper level, and the heart has more communication networks going from the heart to the brain than there are signals coming from the brain to the heart, which means that the heart you could call the emperor, making a lot of judgments and a lot of decisions. And so when people say, a part of me wants to do that and another part of me doesn't, that's in a disagreement internally between one of your senses, your centers of a perception, where neurons are located. So your brain could say, I want to do that, and something in your gut saying, no, I don't. And there's a disagreement. So we call that, a part of us doesn't. And in fact, that's an internal disagreement. So understanding that empowers us to know that the mind goes well beyond the brain. Now, that has profound implications for how we view life. So these neurons that are in these different parts of our body, other than in our brain, are preempting, making decisions. They're reacting to the environment. Why is it that if someone's yelling at you, you start, your gut, you get an indigestion, you feel, you get your heart swells, and we've got all these things. I've got a knot in my stomach. That's because your neurons in your gut are processing your environment, which means they're thinking and reacting independently of thought. And then later on, you say, you think, I don't know why I have I've got, a lump in my stomach, or a lump in my throat, or my chest is tight. That's because there are neurons there that are sensing and perceiving. So if we tune into our bodies, we realize how intelligent the system of our bodies are, rather than just being thought-based. Like, we are so much beyond just thinking people. We are feelings people. We are sensing people. We have a deep sense of intuition and knowing. And that's really important in an upcoming age of AI, where intelligence is simply defined as our ability to rationally process large volumes of information, which AI can, of course, do better than us. So understanding that's really important. Now, if we look at cells in our body, the cells have innate intelligence, and their behavior and their approach to life is really revealing. If we think about how a cell interacts in our body and in the environment, we can learn a lot in leadership, in corporate structures, in networking, in relationships, from how cells behave. So this is really interesting to know. So if we think about higher purpose in the cell, every cell in the body is thinking more about the collective rather than the individual. It's concerned about how the cell performs and how the body performs in its totality, rather than its individual needs. It even means it would take its own life to protect the body. If you really think about how long a cell remains, it's there in your body for a limited amount of time. Skin cells, immune cells, they perish so quickly to constantly generate it. So they give their lives to maintain the health and strength of the organism. So selfishness is not an option when it comes to the overall survival of the body. Communication in the cell is incredible. Every cell keeps in touch and communicates with every single cell in the rest of your body. Being selfish and not communicating is not an option when it comes to the overall well-being of the body. Acceptance, every cell in the body recognizes what they are and who they are, and they participate as a whole, not holding on to wanting another position. They stay where they are and they play their most vital roles with perfect harmony. So going it alone is not an option. Creativity. Every cell in the body has this ability to perform so many tasks. Like your liver performs 50 independent tasks on its own, yet the body has in every cell a creative surge. You can eat something you've never eaten before, and your body then knows how to adapt and deal with it. You can think a thought that you've never thought before. You can even dance a way you've never danced before. What enables that? That's the cells, just neurons repositioning themselves and being creative. So clinging to old behavior is not an option. Efficiency. A cell only stores 3 seconds of food and oxygen within its cell walls. It totally trusts in being provided for. It doesn't consume excessively or hoard, fearing for the future. It trusts in life. In giving, the primary activity of every cell in your body is to give. And because of giving, it always receives back. So hoarding and selfishness is not an option. Immortality. Cells reproduce and pass on information to other cells in the body, even though they know their time is limited. And they keep on giving everything that they've gotten to future generations of cells. So this is a kind of practical immortality, submitting to death on the physical plane, but defeating it on the non-physical plane. Instead of investigating the mystery of life just as it applies in our cells, we tend to ignore this and focus on other parts of our lives, and we lose out in the process, and we suffer as a consequence of not gaining and taking from nature's innate wisdom. Many people lose heart and move on to find something different because they're not happy with their jobs, and they're not happy with the relationships, or not happy with the way the circumstances are. And it's a very defeatist type of mentality. If you look at ourselves, imagine they adopted this defeatist type of logic. If where we are isn't good enough, then love and healing remain out of touch with us. After years of spending life in chaos, are we ready to allow the mystery of life to unfold and guide us once again? Imagine if cells became despondent and said, we don't want to function anymore. The entire planet wouldn't survive. So despondency and losing hope is not an option. Neither is selfishness. The cells work in harmony for the sake of the body. And if we decide to engage with that way with our planet, of course, everything's going to work out perfectly fine, because everybody is concerned about the planet in its widest sense, rather than me and my project.